Oh, it's so great to be here and to see so many familiar faces. Flagstaff is like a second home to me too now. So I'm going to read from my manuscript of poems called In the Vast Archive of Atoms. I'll just call it a book from here on out to send some good vibes out into the universe and hopefully get published soon. And I'm just going to read from the first section, which is called Atoms of the Body. And just a brief background, in addition to TVA, I'm from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is where they enriched all the uranium for the nuclear bomb during World War II. So where they brought uranium to, left the open wounds festering in nearby land. So a lot of this collection is about me coming to terms with that. And in this first section, you'll hear some poems that are really closely aligned with my voice, so my poetic eye, but you'll also hear two other voices. One is John Hendricks, and he was kind of a local legend in pre-TVA Tennessee. He supposedly foresaw the Manhattan Project coming to town, and his story is a really tragic one, but also one that got used a lot by propaganda and news outlets. Because if he foresaw it, then it was in God's wishes, right? Another voice is that of my grandmother, loosely imagined, and she grew up in rural Western Virginia on a farm and without a lot. She lost, I think, 3 siblings within a week of each other, so to diphtheria. Atoms of the body. In the vast archive of an infinitely divisible space and time, you are an atom, single and indivisible, a hypothetical body. Akira Lippitt. And this is the first of those John Hendricks poems. It's called Prophecy After Heartbreak. She left me, and I missed being touched. That's the reason I went barefoot through the woods. Bare feet give one the sense of being intimate. The dirt tickled me. A speck of oak lodged between my toes. And then I saw 2 streams run out in opposite directions, though they lay beside each other. This struck me, called to me like my long-gone wife. Listen here, the creek said. Listen better. If I say, God, how the earth of her would shake, you figure I'm prone to exaggerate. But you'll be imagining our love now, which is good. It's what people forget. You can call love God if you like. I lay down because I missed her and because desire is a kind of God. We all know that. When the ground kept whispering, I pressed an ear down. Of course I called it God. By now you know that men around these parts will do that. Hear a woman's breath from deep within and say it's godlike. Which is the point. Listen better. I listened so long I got hungry, like on those Sundays we would lie all day in bed. And it was in that state I dreamed, listening, listening, listening. I could hear what was brewing here as if the seed of disease, the sound both strange and close to home, like how my belly rumbled when we fought. And in the rumbling I heard, yes, the pounding down of railroad ties, the rushed up factories for the bomb. I think I had the word for bomb. And next, how they'd enlist all this I've said as platform for their story. Oh, here John saw the atom split, and here John spoke God's awing plan. But I was trying to say, I hear you. I was trying to say, come back home now. Things just aren't right. Appraisal report, Atom City. What it's worth depends on who you ask. Depends on who asks. Do you take into account the dogwoods, the squid ink blue of storm formed just behind the ridge? Do you take into account the mud slung to raise temporary housing, the enemy dead, the length of lines for cigarettes, and so forth? How do you calculate such patient waiting and other acts of patriotism? Do you file the picture of the schoolgirl, 1995, hair on end, smiling for the camera? But then, what do you do with the photo? Do you refer to it here, in this report? You might, but then you'd have to refer to the lot of them, and there's a whole lot more. This is an entire city containing multitudes of molecules and wisecracked smiles. The city's pride itself sits in the center of the town, adjacent to the derelict hotel, standing like a shining hill. Start there. It measures 20 by 10 by 20, quite large in scale if you consider the unit of measurement. But is it stable? Will it hold? Ask the right questions. If you want to know its real worth, you'll have to look out back. Is there a privy? If so, no indoor plumbing at all, and that's a problem. Big enough and standing, that's one thing, but sooner or later someone's going to have to take a shit. Definite. And then how do you assess all the sewage piling up? What is the standard value of the smell? And is it balanced by the charcoal drift, the damp green scent pressed on you by the fog? What about the pungent urine samples in small, unlabeled vials? Other items are even less discreet. How about location? Do you rate the mountain views, the distance from Japan? Do you take into account the friendship though? Stand inside it while it's wrong. How do you feel? How's your head? Are any of these conditions actually better than fair? Write it down and move along. So, in a weird turn of fate, some people who are actually dislocated, you hear me?
Actually, we're going to take a break and fix it. This one's so like...
Is it echoing?
Yeah.
I'm missing that.
Dead, I think, yeah.
Okay. So, just quick history. In a cruel turn of fate, a lot of people who were actually what's the word? Kicked off their land because of TVA. Their houses were reclaimed by the government for that project. Some of them in Oak Ridge Valley were evacuated twice. I keep using the wrong verb. Fill in the blank with the correct verb. Displaced. Were displaced twice, and oftentimes, the way the government would reimburse them for their house would be to look at it really quickly and see if it had plumbing. You know, for a lot of these people, their livelihoods were tied to their house, so how do you assess that? And then how do you assess the progress the city has made to continue its friendship with its Japanese sister city? And these ideas were kind of floating around in my head in that poem, which mimics the appraisal reports of those houses. So this poem is called Coming to Terms with Your Nuclear Heritage, Medical. Echo's gone, but I'm making one now. Forgive me. Run 2 fingers over the surface of your nipple as instructed by the pamphlet. A smooth, circular motion. How you make a jar sing. Made someone laugh, that one. The squirrels that burrowed in your bedroom walls to scratch a home out. Buds relentless inside a body. The man-made pond you used to skim for fish, a vibrant green and pedestrian bridge. Progress from the areola towards the perimeter. Your fingers should make tiny laps the size of quarters, as if your own small moon. Too loud now? Nipple. I feel like I should start that one over, but I won't. I'll just barrel through it. A rush of rainbow scales like streaks of blush, 100 downturned faces of trout, your little dimpled self in the tension of a lion. Coming to terms with your nuclear heritage, research. When you remember the Museum of Science and Energy, you remember your mom's way of patting rouge on her lips so gently, it's as if she's pressing a pie crust. She was eager to help you with your research, affirmed the bomb was a terrible and sad and necessary thing. Consider the use of calling a bomb thing. Consider if it's best to hear this from she who breastfed you. Remember the photography exhibit, its walls carpeted in kiss me red, but still missable, tucked behind the gallery stairs like an errant hare. Look at yourself. So intent on looking, you begin to feel yourself worth seeing. You remember tidying your hair wild from the Tennessee humidity, and then reading the simple captions, flitting back and forth between the photo of the shadows and ladder, boy, where, ladder, boy, where, had been. Even now you see your mom's lips loosen, helium falling, a line gone slack. Remove your palm from the generator, that metal sphere you volunteered on a 4th grade trip to touch. Feel your fibers loosen too, then fall, after standing years involuntarily on end. Wow. So at the Museum of Science and Energy, where we used to go, it was like our one museum, right? But also it was strangely not kept up. It was like always 60s exhibit. Have you been there?
No, but
yeah, so strange. But they did have one of those generators where when you touched it, your hair would just go spike out. So I thought that was really cool. And all of the actual like war history is kind of tucked away. So it's an interesting place. Attraction, and then, you know, the side. This poem is for my husband and his parents, who are my new family now, and in the audience. Thanks for coming. It's called Ways in Which Others Dressing Me Have Proved I'm Loved. A little upbeat for a second. The most obvious being the long upward zipping toward the back of my neck, his gentle pulling and his breath directed at the top like weather, heavy as water in Singapore's air. Before our wedding, his mother slipping the rug dress over my head, down and over that precise spot of neck, hovering beside me in the stiffness of the weave for longer than you might expect, unembarrassed by the gaudy light effect of my bra, fuchsia and pulsing by her bangs. The circumference of the dress tightened and her fingers working like a cellist's at my waist, weaving and tucking the first belt in order to prepare for the next, with which her blue flowers will further adorn me, make me blush for having been so delicately tended to. His father rushing to hold the cinch around which the belts belong, the cinch around, the three of us wobbling like a bouquet of balloons carried upstairs. At the landing, the painting in which my own mother has dressed me twice, first with the slow roll of white tights and the slip toe to heel into tiny leather flats with elastic straps. Then, once again, in layers of oil, each recreating more precisely our small moment together, she shading and reshading the contours of my body and the negative space around it, the space she knows best, for it's always that I'm leaving her. There are others I might be inclined to forget. Our roommates coaxing me into sweatpants at 4 a.m., readying me for a sleep in which she hopes I will leave my hollowness, my uncanny ability to forget all this. And yesterday, rummaging through the outfits that Granny left me, when I choose one to wear without even washing it first, and of course it's her hands at each button, no longer swollen with diabetes, but nimble, tracing the seams of this dress that fit her at 30, climbing upward until they reach the collar at, again, my neck, where all of this could have gone wrong, but didn't. Maybe I'll just read a couple more. Are we doing okay on time? I'm blushing. So this one is for my grandmother, and it's called Home Salon. Aunt Margaret enjoys the springing action of the curl, the little bundle of her mother's being, how it coils around itself as if the present were absurd, reaches back toward an earlier time when these roles were reversed. It's not that Aunt Margaret becomes her mother, but rather that another line is blurred, the one that says everything is immediately true or has passed, that Margaret is either or, a line for practical purposes. This is why when her mother dies, she tisks the mortician, the prim contours he shapes with her hair, how he obscures the energy they'd contained and the windings they'd made of each other for half a century. Why her scalp is still pricked and pricked by the other's fingers spidering through her. Why Margaret takes the plastic cylinders from her pocketbook and grips their sea-foamed colored curves. This won't do, she is saying. This won't do. My Aunt Margaret really redid my grandmother's hair before the funeral. She was like, "Oh, you got that wrong." Okay, do I have time for one more? Okay. Two more, but they're short, okay? They go together. I don't want to lull you into false pretenses here. The first book of Rita Imogene. I'll try to do her accent, but it always eludes me, and that's my grandmother's name. There's a cold pail by my feet when lightning's shucked from roof to cow to thumb. Makes me buzz near how lickin' hail does. And now me all quiet like in the door stuck, just as pitiful to the barn. Which horse starts up shaken? What a rapturous priss of a storm we're in. Her grand finale is frantic as a whooping cough, akin to engine failure. How when I dance my limbs will tremble as they loosen, then wilden, then let a small bundle out to who knows where. Cows don't like this. A cow likes routine. So I make biscuits, though what milk I have is scorched. It's 3 months from here, my sister goes, too young to know it. When they lower her, sound like a cast iron flung to the back of the rack, the self-same tremor finds me. My body hums out after her through the hinge. And I'll read the last one that's a prophecy because of the prophecy joke. Prophecy after the death of the daughter. And this is in John Hendrick's voice. First spiraled mint and knock-kneed peddlers, then her small face, bright as a city not yet built. Then the candy resting on her tongue like a stone, the rud of a wagon wheel, a particle of dust in my eye. Then 3 fathers worth of trinkets, their future value resting not on material or use, but on their distance past so many rolling hills of time, so long before the great unsettling. But first her skin stretched like a 2-stove pond. Now my foot on a puddle, pushing down. And I can see why I messed that one up. Now my foot on a puddle, pushing down. Now a burial and a hinge and me falling off. A wife unwilling to distract herself with God, which is what I call the voice beneath the puddle. Now the wife gone. Next, a long time on the same ground that took my neon girl, the echo of a word I know but never learned. Then white fungus growing too fast beside me, as if sprouting from my cheek. Soon, the pure white of a star and a pain in my temple. Soon, a collective upturning of bellies, a new museum, and beneath the stairs, a photo of a shadow of a boy, right where the boy had been. Soon, a woman will visit with pawn-color eyes, say, it had to be. Does that make this a prophecy?
Levi Phillips, Man on Fire. Look at that. All right.
First and foremost, I want to thank Jesse and James J. Fact of the matter is, this wouldn't be going on without them, so they deserve a round of applause. Wrote a few things for y'all. I hope you like them. This first one's called a poet thing. Unwind this worry and come undone. Tonight, let go of all the angry and empty. Let's fill our cups with all the hope we can handle until we're drunk on the promise of a new sunrise. We are poets. We listen to old ghosts whisper their words, and we translate the beauty in ways that most will never know. So sing me your smile and make me understand the music, no matter the rhythm, no matter the rhyme scheme. Keep dancing. Just keep dancing. Tell me your stories. Let me learn not what you believe, but why. Find shine in the limelight, lose yourself on stage, and bring me your recollection, because I hear angels' wings when pages turn, and see heaven come from pen tips in this tabernacle, and this sinner saved by the grace he finds in your stanza. So tonight, while I have the means to make this fit, hold this message close to your hearts, and know this: goddamn, poet, do your thing. Love y'all, and just like last time I performed here, I'm nervous as hell.
We love you, Levi.
All right, this next one is it's called My Faith for You. Today, let's be the miracles we've all been praying for. Let's throw rocks through the stained glass archways of that which we hold most holy. Let's take our dogma for a walk and let it off its leash and just run free, because we don't have to be afraid anymore. Open up my deaf ears. Let your demons scream beautiful against me so I can understand you. Because from the top of the tallest dreams that I have, everything looks like specks of dirt on a great big ball. When did we forget to love each other? When did we forget that we can do anything? Because today is pure and driven. And I can look in a mirror and say, you know what? I don't give you the power to hate me anymore. Today is precious because tomorrow tends to turn blind corners and collide with caught off guard, and then it's all over but the crying. So if I'm gonna shed tears, best believe they're gonna boil over and bleed out, because the words I love you are so powerful that all that empty had no place else to go, so it ran down my face. So today, do me one favor. If I never see you again, whether it's day one till gone and done, we're too interconnected to ever be apart, or you're just a stranger who loves words like me. If I never see you again, please remember this. It's okay to live this life. It's okay to catch feelings and fear and faith and fury. It's okay to believe in yourself, because we are all miracles. And I believe in all of you. Quick shameless self-promotion time. Just put these out. They're $5. I'd like more, but I will take less. Settled for hugs and beers before. If you talk to that lovely young lady sitting at the corner of the bar, her name is Sherry Nolan. She will definitely get you set up, okay? And Sherry. This one's called Conduit, because sometimes being a writer is kind of like sticking your tongue in a light socket. When I take this pen off safety, I can't promise you I won't come out screaming, smiling, or sobbing, but I do swear I'll bleed true from the deepest parts of me out to my felt tip, because some days my best blessings become bane, and I turn myself inside out just so I can pretend I'm comfortable in my own skin. Soft-shelled shaman, babbling to the beat of beauty and bedlam that no one else can see or hear. But words hit like sucker punches in silent storms, so I listen for the thunder, the thought process. The chance to let my squall scream brilliant and pretend that if I break the sound barrier, I'll mend myself. I'm not all scars and stitches. Just gotta be gentle when you take the bandages off. Truth be told, I tend to hide behind the loudest parts of me. I'm a crybaby. These rising tides well up, and I just want to break the goddamn and say, you know what? These are my feelings, and I am torrential. So hold close but move slow, I'm still learning, and the curve of my heart longs to be caressed. It's just hard to trust warmth when you're used to dark. Some days I stride, others it's baby steps, even backwards, but I promise, if you'll help me be brave enough to just be, just feel, I'll shine bright enough to light your way on your darkest day. Liquid courage. All right, this next one, it's called Volume of Torpedoes. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel sometimes. My name is Poet, and I'm always watching. It's a curse, I mean a gift, I mean, okay, could you tell me? Because it's strange when venom feels like remedy, and the remedy feels like, because I talk too much. Steel jaw linguistics that usually get the better of me when the best thing I could do is just shut the fuck up. But it feels like home when you lay your perfect points across my soft skin synonyms and say shh. And I swear, sometimes I'd say the right thing at the right time, but I've got a reputation to keep up. So call me your personal torpedo, and I will find the closest thing to being better I'll ever dream of in my blast zone. And once, just this time, I will combust and burn brilliant, built on broken, but I am bent on beautiful. So help me iron out all my angles. I want to be like water, so drench me with the liquid in your words. I've seen enough to know that I don't know much, but when I found my ignorance, I lost my pride. So please remember, there's a child buried inside this walking contradiction. Fire, fury, and friction are so easy to wear when your fear decides to throw a conniption. Fit these pieces back together, because I'm all jagged and tired of bleeding my Rorschach out so everybody can see it. And I'm so used to being shrapnel that there's no more theory to my Big Bang. But sometimes smiles make sense. Sometimes it's nice to be disarmed. So please walk through my wake zone and bend my wires. Set me to purr because stun and kill are way too simple. I'm a poet, so I talk too much. Maybe it's because there's a silent subtle to me that hurts, and to me, it's cacophony. It's an elevator music and a mine shaft to hell. So my words go full auto and I spray and pray. I don't have to hear the noise of nothing anymore, and I'm sorry. I didn't know you'd be so good at turning it down. So this one is actually, in this book, my Aunt Sherry's favorite poem. It's a little bit different than I usually do. I was watching this really cool documentary a couple weeks ago on Bonnie and Clyde, and I'm pretty sure everybody here knows who Bonnie and Clyde is. Well, we all know that they were killers and whatnot. But the one thing that I learned is that Bonnie always considered herself somewhat of a poet. Sorry about that. Bonnie always considered herself somewhat of a poet. And so I decided to try to step outside my box, and I wrote a poem from Bonnie's perspective the day that her and Clyde got killed. Sweet baby, we were outlaws in love, on the lam, but we were never sheep. The only thing I ever held tighter than my Tommy gun was your hand, now hemmed in by flat-foot Philistines with bright badges and bloodlust. I give you these last words. Their guns guarantee that today will be our undoing, so come together with me and taste the trust and blood on my lips. I'll die now with you, my darling, on this highway, in a hail of bullets with your passion as my armor. It's you and me against the world, and though the world won, we did not lose. So I will empty this clip with a full heart and greet you in heaven, because despite our mayhem and misgiving, hell is no place for lovers like us. We sure showed them, didn't we, Clyde? How am I doing on time? All right, got at least two more for you. This one's called How Long Is Now? How long is now? It starts from 1 second, is worth 1,000 moments and 1,000,000 days. How long is now? Long enough to know that mind over matter is just a phase, because in my mind it always matters, and for what it's worth, drop souls do shatter, coming down off those torrential highs and long goodbyes. Forget about doves, this is why we cry. Is the space between a blink and a tear any longer than a split second? Because time flies like birds in autumn running from the roar of winter. How long is now? Because now is, in this moment, I've never felt better. Even if my worst ways tend to shine bright on dark days, how long is now? Long enough for me to hear your story and try and understand. I wanted to give somebody a special shout out. It's my little brother Sammy back there. He actually helped me come up with the title for this book and did the art for this book. So go shake his hand, because he's a badass and he's a hell of a poet too. This is the title piece for the book. It's called Man on Fire, and this is actually my favorite poem in the book. This heart pounds two hands heavy to the rhythm of reluctant rhetoric and recollection, to the beat of beauty and belief in the bright side of my darkest days. I speak in tones of bomb blast and dragon's breath, hellfire and hallelujah. I've let these words wind their way around my will to let this lockjaw linguistic lament sink its teeth into inspiration. Pitbull poet with all the passion, promise, and power of a pen possessed by the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, better known as Hemingway, Kerouac, and Wakefield. So find me woke and working my way through witching hours, 3 a.m., 3 poems deep, miles to go before I sleep. No rest for the weary, just words and whimsy, because I've been a lot of things. A dreamer, a drunk, a junkie, a joker, a promise, a pain, son of a preacher man, and a son of a bitch. But some titles stick like scars and stain you beautiful, like the two things that will always bind me to these words. I will always be a poet, and I will always be a man on fire. All right, who likes political poems? All right, if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna get up on my soapbox for a sec. This one's called Hello and Salutations. This division bangs in our belfries as we all come tumbling down. Untied by this get-up-and-go greed, we never realized we let ourselves become second-hand citizens in the nation we make believe is bent on our best interests. Hello, my name is poverty. I will beat at your door until my knuckles bleed and hunt you all your days. I am that deadly sharp dividing line that makes it us and them, found on every desperate face, street corner, and slum where there is not enough. I am there also. Baptized in bloodshed, we stain our sensibility. There is no water pure or potent enough to wipe the crimson from this country. Hello, my name is war. I grow in the malice and misunderstanding of all our fear-mongering. My only peace is in the chaos that comes from anguish and loss. The wailing of widows, parents in pain, and every empty eye resolute on the promise of never seeing someone again is my music. And my voice is the gun blast from battlefronts to bad neighborhoods. Something in us cries. The knowledge that we are lost and lied to seep to our surface. Race wars, riots, murder, mass media pushing myth, inequality, intolerance, and the impending growth of dread no longer lay dormant. Where is hope? Healing. The human has to be put back into the condition, or we will only continue our tradition of terror and torment. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Hello, my name is Revolution, the quiet voice that all can hear. I am found where I am needed most, the iron in the blood of every freedom fighter, the spark that waits for just one match in this book to say that is enough. The faith in the movement that shines against those who deal in drowning the downtrodden. I am the hammer that forges change, the fire that fuels this fury, and the hand of hope that will heal us all. You good? All right, well, I hadn't planned on reading this many, but let me pull out another one. Luckily, I wrote more than one for this. All right. Little backstory to this one. A little while back, I was walking home from a friend's house, and saw these kids hanging out at the corner store, and they were just straight up loped out, nothing but troublemakers. I immediately related to them, but there was one. It was a couple brothers and a vato, and then there was this one crazy little white kid. And man, I looked at him and I was just like, damn, son. You remind me of me when I was your age. So I went home and wrote this poem. It's called Little Big Man. I see you, young man, pants hanging, still banging, heavy-duty street slanging. Your tattooed tails tell me you're mean. As you mad dog this L7 square saltine, but know this, I understand your path like a blind soothsayer in a Kurosawa film, like a mixtape sold behind the club, in the trunk of the car where that double pump makes punks jump is kept. I remember trying to just get a rep. Because where I came from, it's IBM and KFC, and if you think that means computer and chicken wings, yeah, you should probably never go. I see you, young man, fresh pressed khakis, lokes and white tees. I'm sorry. You remind me of a younger me. Right now, those colors you reppin' are your world. I pray someday that rainbows permeate your blind eyes, and you realize that your crew don't love you. You're better than that late night fist fight, meth pipes and street lights, but right now it's all about your set, all about that clip. So I see you, young man. Go and do what you do. Just remember, what you do now echoes through eternity and forever will haunt you like all the pain you're trying to spread in an attempt to hide the truth. It's you that hurts. I see you, young man. Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be able to read with Bojan and Sarah. I've known Bojan for the better part of 20 years. Back when we were little coffee shop brats who would write really caffeinated poetry at the campus coffee bean and just harass anybody who came near us. You know, if we sat around and told stories about each other to this group, we'd probably both end up in jail. But I will say this. He is a man of so many talents, and he is probably one of the most prolific writers I have ever met. And it is my honor to introduce Bojan Lewis.
Flagstaff. Stagflap, as I refer to it. I grew up here, you know. This pool hall holds a special place in my heart. I used to ditch high school and come here and drink root beer and play pool. And sometimes I'd go there late for the train when it was on San Francisco. My dad would walk in to get his iced tea. He'd be like, "What are you doing here? You're just supposed to be at school?" And I'd just say, "Nah." And he would be like, "Well, you're reading and drinking coffee, like, whatever." And then my mom would say, like, you know, "Dad told me you're at the coffee shop." And I was like, yeah. Yeah. I was. I also used to come here. I did my undergrad at NAU. Jane tore me a new one in fiction. So did Anne. You know, I was a little hothead fucking kid. Like, I can write stories, and they're like, not yet. But I mean, so I studied with them. I studied with Barbara Anderson, Jim Soonan. So yeah, this is all like thanks to them. I mean, they kept pushing me, you know, keep writing, do an MFA. Like, after I graduated, I moved to Alaska, and then it took me 3 years to go back to school. And here I am, many years later. I'm gonna read from this book called Currents. I got some with me if you have any extra money on me. And I'll read some new work. I guess the benefit of this book taking 8 years to write and publish is that it seems like you're prolific, but, you know. Anyway. I'm gonna start, actually this first poem, if I can find it, that I'm gonna start with, I wrote in the last class I took with Jim. So it's like 2003 when I graduated. So it has somehow survived all these years, and it's the only thing of my undergrad writing that has survived not being thrown into a fire. And it's called Red Dirt, and it's for Jim. I work to be more than roots fed through days of heat and dust, evaporating into a brittle husk, withdrawn and left as only remains. Whether stirred out by force or removed in mechanic iron swoops, I'm simple, passed over and dumped onto a pile of old ground turned up, open to the air. Bound in earth pack, I release seeds, my blood to be windblown and spread. Straining from new foundation, I reach to hold all else, settled, empty of breath. So aside from being an instructor at Arizona State University's downtown campus, I worked for many years as an electrician, a lot of it here in Flagstaff, so I've wired a lot of houses here. My friend Kendall, we used to terrorize everyone with, we would play like Brandy, Sunno all day and just terrorize the other construction workers to the point that we got to work alone all the time. And so we just like bang out the houses, like, and no one would bother us. So this book is largely based in like basic electrical theory. There's a lot of threes, a lot of tercets. One of my favorite poems is Dante's Inferno, and the other two, Paradiso and Whatever, the Inferno is the best one. So there's a lot of threes, right? Anyway, this one's called Fire and Ashes. The red off the far ridge, an eating dragon slow coming down the valley. My mom's imagination over the phone, a quarter mile of cars ahead. No one has stopped on their way north or south to capture hotshots turning the beast to smolder. Somewhere out in the burn under dusk, a rattler den unfurls fast as brush fire and clenches against the infernal draft that blocks entrance and escape. For an instant, or minutes maybe, their unnatural warmth is a comfort beneath the ablaze final day. It's the shape I'm in. I don't tell her that I will leave days from this moment, the high, dry mountains we drive toward, for the ashes of a different monster. You know, of course, wherever you live, you can't wait to leave. So, and you know, come back and visit and leave again. So this book has a lot of cool locales, a lot of voices, and there's like a chorus going on. A lot of the settings are like, some are here. I don't really write about Flagstaff that much in my poetry. It's more my fiction. But the settings are like Phoenix, where I live and work, Philadelphia, Sitka, Alaska, and even some stuff in Singapore. My wife and I lived in Singapore a couple times, and it's just hot, so incredibly hot. Anyway, this isn't a Singapore poem, this is called Arc Flash. It's for my brother in electrical work, Kendall. We used to just blow shit up all the time. Arc Flash. The stars went off and on, as if wired to... The stars went off and on, as if wired by the hell-with-it electricians, tired of lighting scrap-patched houses, connected by threads of pre-dawn smoke to invisible weavings in the sky. Dim questions and silent answers. Cattle, gaunt and wanting, grazed between weeds across the valley, interrogated the dirt of Wash and Creek. How long since you've been clay after rain? Startled awake at midnight, and under influence, I sought my car to kill the soft snores beside me. Hauled ass out of urban desert decay to sandstone cliffs 5 hours away, where centuries of wind and more recent roadway gusts have made a half-pipe of its base, though not enough to topple the edge of the mesa's level. Hours from Phoenix, oasis greedy and artificial, I needed crystal, my dad's home and ceremony, less familiar mountain tobacco. Not to guide my spirit used to mornings being lit, but to remind my tongue of blood, cold coffee made by other men's women who dispel me with smokes from cheap packs set within reach on their knees. Maybe they wish, aside from my soon departure, that I shared their danger. Bastards who make home, confinement, and needs hush. I left and arrived months before the rainy season, though cuts along the cliff face of the crystal shimmered with mica, like stars burnt out, taking eons to reveal their absence in myth-heavy constellations. The sun risen isn't for me, cattle being herded, or darkness in the room I left to wake alone. Here, a few cars idle without drivers, warm up before the workday, while smoke from the houses vanishes and releases the night sky. Thank you. Of course, there's some political poems in here. I live in Phoenix. We have the shithead Joe Arpaio, that piece of shit Dana Brew. There's people. Anyway, so when I worked with like electrician down there for a lot of years too, and you know, There's a lot of immigrant workers that would be, you pick them up for the day and, call ice on them, and that's that. This poem's called Electricity. The morning roundups a current leaking the earth without an interruption or fault. Above busted streetlights, the sun buzzes to a cuffed line of deportees, the sheriff's imbalanced authority. Any laborer gathered for a tear-out agrees the pleasure of opening walls is the view of what's no longer behind. The restrained motion of a body caught within a fence run between language is a union of shock and memory. So that's current. If you want to find out what happened, I'm gonna read some new stuff. So my poetics have vastly changed from this book to what I'm doing now. I don't understand it, which is fun. It's good to not know what you're doing. Only in poetry, electrical work, it doesn't work. And then Kendall or I would have to come and fix it, and we would be angry, right? Let's see. Let's start with a less depressing one. So this is like the latest thing I probably finished, and unfortunately it'll be out in Fugue Journal like next week. Yeah, thank you. That was fun to get to do an audio recording for it. So I'm also a musician. I'm at work on a black metal album right now. So I finally got to like mix something down using all this gear I have. It's like a minute and a half, so I was like, yes, I'm a producer. It's called Black Days, and it's for Adrian C. Lewis, who I like to joke is my uncle, but we're not related at all. He's Paiute or something. Navajo, right? But we're all related in that one way. Anyway, Black Days. There are 15 scorpions pressed apart with a stick used for stirring paint I need to tell you about. Couldn't tell you how they dwelled. Haven't killed enough. They emerged through cracks in the block wall separating each box of this Cro-Magnon neighborhood. I can tell you I wept, smashing sections as they escaped, moving like those fuckers from Alien flicks. Anyway, it's been countless years since I searched the yard perimeter, blacklight a false beacon in the muted night. A 9mm nestled against my hip, bullet chamber to blast the skinheads my sister told of, frantic, having driven the city all night. Among deadened asphalt synapses, we wait for dawn's liminal thread to offer blurred visions for sleep. She described the battle between cops and neo-Nazis. I perceived it as singular and internal until somewhere in the conflict the house was in ruined and left as such. This ruin never occurred. It was a wreck, I'm embarrassed to speak on, a false bend a quarter too far. I want to be clear about the scorpions. My wife crept behind me with her phone, while I, among the apparitions of depression, released to safety and cleared the house of the nothing there. Hateful, I hadn't killed anything. Root beer might not have been the best idea. Trying not to burp through that whole one. I do this in class when I lecture. I'll drink like a highball and I'm just like, rhetorical analysis. Just being honest. All right, this is the last one. This is called The Nature of Mortal Illness. There it is. As a kid, skeptical of pollen plumes making my skin ash, mind migraine heavy, and nasal cavity a sanctuary for deformed crustaceans seeking terrible refuge in a false moisture, I wanted to believe this question. Are my brothers and sisters debris humming because they're what's left? I'm no oceanic world, no fossilized imprint subject to excavation, but a man's sickness is left well enough. Common cold, chromosome infection, viral ethnography, southwestern desert lung fungus. If there's safety within the earth, then I'll go there. Otherwise, where do I find me? Is it clear Gila monsters border extinction? You endangered or enamored with this development? Flint, the sacred bolt of thunder, the syringe end of lightning can turn body to ribbons, quilt it mosaic again, can burn a thirsty land, can armor one against the ill world and suffocate today's protective notion of tomorrow. In our history, the Gila monster might tell you, get your sickness away from me. But it's only to teach you to ask questions correctly, offer the necessary smoke, dispel phobia, and the impatience for curmudgeons with wandering syntax. Lesson, if it kills you, spit at it for sure, kick dirt its way. If it reminds you of your ways, your doubts and regrets, and that shitty relative who molested you, curse it. Shake its hand, which is the hue of your hand, with black magic, ground fine from a loved one's bones. Remember, in agreement with death for death. New tract home subdivisions explode from an imploded aquifer crusted with alkaline skeletons shaped like a brontosaurus. We're headed there, right? A studied, imagined subterranean being, thing, explicated, cited as superfund. That earth, great, once like a marauder or murderer, but more Billy Ray Cyrus than Prince. When prospectors and pioneers sweated this tierra, this Nahastzam, they feared the toxic breath and bites of damn near every living thing we see. See this now, the earth and its things. Medicinal, panacea, antipsychotic, whatever the fuck, labeled illegal and thus farming. As a kid, when I think of it now, I was stupid. Grunge-trodden and late-blooming bony, I wanted to breathe the confidence to say nice things, to experience keggers. However, I was opposite the decorated locker and shower room. If I possessed venom, I was built over and unable to relocate. But this isn't about high school, which doesn't matter. It's burial in tradition and home. Beyond the urban heat of this concrete desert on land is barren and at times hot. Piles of yellow cake decorate the nectar like the tempting skin of dart frogs. Nature's governance, protection. When we fail, our hearts to blame is inverted, like ice caps for summer, a crucifix for clean water and flowers. We can't end this way. The wind, exterminator, a great prop plane dusting the world. A heart so on heart, it forgets itself. Thanks for coming out.